America's original sin was not slavery, in my view. It wasn't the genocide of Native peoples either. Those are consequences. America's original sin is the belief that white people matter more than others. And that belief, combined with greed, has distorted and disfigured our democratic way of life. If we are to become better people, better persons, a better country, we have to tell ourselves a different story about who we are. We cannot tell ourselves a story of American virtue that secures our innocence. I'm thinking of Baldwin rejecting Richard Wright's novel, Native Son, because he believed the character, Bigger Thomas, bore the markings of those assumptions that had little to do with actual lives of Black people, assumptions that said more about white people than they revealed anything about anything else. Baldwin loathed the sentimentality, say, of Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin, and saw Bigger Thomas as the flip side of the same coin. As Baldwin put it in Notes of a Native Son, sentimentality is the mask of cruelty. The point is that the view of Black people in this country, dare I say, in the West, is one bound up with a certain view of white people, that the value gap requires that Black folk be considered as a kind of ward or as a kind of victim, objects of charity or objects of disdain. Baldwin would say in Down at the Cross, quote, "And when the country speaks of a new Negro, which it has been doing every hour on the hour for decades, it is not really referring to a change in the Negro, which in any case it is quite incapable of assessing, but only to a new difficulty in keeping him in his place," end quote. The new Negro is an older iteration of Black Lives Matter and the new Black subject it presupposes. For Baldwin, the country will not change until it re-examines itself and discovers what it really means by freedom. We cannot tell ourselves stories any longer that secure our virtue. Instead, if we're going to re-examine ourselves and discover what it really means, what freedom really means, that will involve, among other things, telling ourselves the truth, or better, no longer lying to ourselves about what we've done and what we are doing. In fact, Baldwin insisted that the country confront the lie that sustains its innocence and covers the crime. In an essay published in 1964 to accompany the photographs of Richard Avendon, Baldwin put the point succinctly, quote, "We are afraid to reveal ourselves because we trust ourselves so little. And in this labyrinth, the person is desperately trying not to find out what he really thinks. Therefore, the truth cannot be told, even about one's attitudes. We," Baldwin writes, "we live by lies. And not only, for example, about race, whatever by this time in this country, or indeed in the world this word may mean, but about our very natures. That lie," Baldwin says, "has penetrated our most private moments and the most secret chambers of our heart. We must acknowledge that the United States has never been a beacon of virtue. It's not an example of democracy achieved, nor is it the shining city on the hill. We tell ourselves these stories in order to protect ourselves from what we've done." Baldwin understood that the problems, that our problems in the United States go well beyond who occupies the White House or the latest example of American racism. We have to get to the rot at the heart of the matter. And this will require that we deconstruct all that we hold sacred. Americans are trapped in a history we refuse to know, but we carry within us. And this is the root of our unadmitted sorrow. The terrors and panic we experience have everything to do with the gap between who we imagine ourselves to be and who deep down we really are. That the nation actively evades confronting this gap locks the country into a kind of perpetual adolescence where those who desperately hold on to the American myth as some kind of new world Eden refuse to grow up. Can you imagine being stuck forever in Never Never Land? Forever lost boys and lost girls, refusing to be responsible, refusing to be held to an account? Baldwin's words in The White Man's Guilt return here. Quote, "History, as nearly no one seems to know, is not merely something to be read, and it does not refer merely or even principally to the past. On the contrary, the great force of history comes from the fact that we carry it within us. And it is with great pain and terror that one begins to realize this, in great pain and terror, because one enters into battle with that historical creation oneself and attempts to recreate oneself according to a principle more humane and more liberating. I cannot help but connect this insight to what has happened over the last 4 years and over the last few months in this country. Americans refusing to grow up, revel in the fantasy that ours must remain a white nation. Americans, in some ways, it feels, like we're in a state of panic all along. At least to me, it has felt like a suppressed terror and panic lurks beneath the surface of the rants and hatreds, that the seams are unraveling and revealing the monstrosity hidden beneath it all.